All right, welcome everybody. If you can hear the sound of our voice, somebody raise their hand just to, you know, I can see people are raising their hand. Great. Well, we're starting a few minutes late, but we've got great stuff for you. I want to introduce Brian Clark, leads to ROI. He's going to say a little bit about how he got here and what program he has for geofarming. So take it away.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. So I'm Brian Clark. I'm the founder of Be Known Advertising and Be Known University and leads to ROI. We help agents by connecting you guys with buyers and sellers so that you can do what you do best, and that's sell homes. I'm an ex-Zillow employee, and I have about 8 years of experience helping agents win buyers and sellers and get them across the finish line. And so today we're going to be doing a presentation completely on geofarming for buyers and sellers, so that you can pinpoint your ideal clientele and put the right kind of marketing in front of them. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to share my screen. And hey, Mike, I want to make sure I am sharing the correct screen because I've got 2 different monitors, and GoToMeet's works a little different from Zoom. So is my screen sharing?
It says leads to ROI. These are slides.
Perfect. All right, you guys. So leads to ROI, geofarming buyers and sellers. So what you guys will learn in this training session is going to be how to niche down on specific neighborhoods, how to market to them on Facebook and with direct mail, the marketing materials that you're going to need, how to captivate that audience, and what type of videos you should shoot so that you can re-engage them and put the right message back in front of those individuals. All right, so a couple of things out of the gate. There is some data that you're going to need to go ahead and capture to market and target these individuals. So we like to use Remine. It's something that's available to a lot of agents through their MLS. Not every MLS allows it, but it's something that is a lot of MLSs do provide it to their agents. But you can also use systems like Property Radar or PropStream so that you can go in and pull that data based off of homeowners or renters, or finding the specific individuals that you want to target for the type of business that you want to obtain. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually just going to go ahead and open up Remine because it's the system that we prefer, and I'm going to walk you guys through what I would do to find an ideal homeowner that could potentially be interested in listing their house. So I have the mortgage side, so however you guys would log in to Remine, make sure that you go to that particular specific portal. But I'm just going to simply go into the search section, and I'm going to have a ton of things on here because I'm always going in and geofarming and pulling info for clients of ours and different markets and things that we're testing out. So Orlando is a good place. Let's go ahead and dive into Orlando and use Orlando as our subset that we're going to take a look at. Now, a couple of things, especially when it boils down to niching down on a specific marketplace. You want to make sure that your list isn't too small, but you also want to make sure that it isn't too big. We're kind of looking for that Goldilocks, right? So if we're going to be using this list for multi-purpose, and we go and we draw a outline here, and let's just say that we go, okay, let's just go ahead and target Orlando as a whole, and let's go and get in front of these homeowners. If we target an area that's this large, we're going to have a monstrous list. I mean, this is 230,000 people that we can pull, and this is also going to be businesses as well as consumers that are just residential homeowners, right? So the goal of this is going to be to niche down so that we can find the specific neighborhood that we want to target, and also find that specific homeowner that we want to get in front of. So this would be a great way to start if you're pulling data and you wanted to go and blanket cover your entire audience on Facebook, your entire market, and get an ad in front of every single person in town. This would be a great way to do it. Start at your lowest threshold price point. Most of these platforms, I know PropStream and Property Radar all have that 10,000 cap for people that you can pull. The cool thing with Remine is as long as you delete your list of 10,000, you can keep pulling more and more and more and more. So download a list of 10,000, delete it, download another list of 10,000. So if you want to go and blanket market your entire neighborhood or your entire city, this would be how you do it. You'd go and grab all of that data. You'd start at your minimum price points. Let's just say 250. You go 250 to 255. Get that list as close to 10,000 as possible without going over. Save it to your cart, download the list, delete it, come back, then go from 255 to 260, get as close to 10,000 without going over, save it, download it, delete it, rinse and repeat. What we're going to be focused on here is actually diving into a specific neighborhood. So let's take a look here, and let's actually just look at, say, College Park right here, and these individual neighborhoods that we have up in this particular section. Now you can see as we zoom in, these pools of number of leads and number of information that we can pull get smaller and smaller and smaller. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and we're going to follow this line, and we're going to go up through here, and let's just say we want this portion of the neighborhood and just this portion of that neighborhood. Let's go ahead and just grab that info. Let's see how many we have to start. We've got about 2,129. We're in a good starting place. I'm going to show you guys why here in just a moment, because a lot of this marketing is going to boil down to sending direct mail, and there's a cost involved for postage on each one of those pieces that we send out. So let's go ahead and take a look at, first and foremost, let's go ahead and look at ownership time. So the national average for move up or move down is 5 to 7 years. So I like to start at that 5-year mark and go all the way up. So anybody that's been in their house for 5 years or longer, that's where I want to start. More than likely, it's going to be somebody that could potentially be interested in making a move. The next thing that I'm going to look at on here is I'm going to look at actual building type. So I like to focus on single family. I'm sure a lot of folks on here do as well. But if you do like more than single family, you can simply add in townhomes, condos, or multifamily if you choose. But my preference right now is single family. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. And then we're going to see that our list cuts in half. So we've got a good amount of condos that are in here, maybe some townhomes, multifamily. Then we want to take a look at land use. We want to weed out anything that's commercial, industrial, anything that's farmland, all this good stuff. So we're just going to focus on that residential. Let's see what that does. So we actually stayed the exact same, but that's because I'm focused on a residential neighborhood. Now, the next thing that I would do in this section, let's say, you know, I really want to focus on buyers that have some good equity. You know, anybody that purchased their home between the last, 5 and 7 years, more than likely they have some pretty darn good equity in their home, but you never know. Sometimes people cash out refinance. So we want to make sure that these folks have 25% or more equity in their home. So these are folks that are going to be putting some cash back in their pocket. And you can see we actually weeded out almost 50 people, 42 people essentially that we have weeded out on this from individuals that don't have 25% or more equity, but they've all been in their home for 5 years or longer. So that's just a testament to that. You may have some folks that do a cash out refinance. You can also use things like the sell score. I haven't found these to be, I haven't found a high sell score to give us a better subset of leads when we're sending out direct mail, or a higher response using this than not. So I prefer not to use it because we're going to miss opportunities in our mailings that we wouldn't if we didn't add that in. So I'm just going to leave it out. And let's go and take a look. Is there anything else I want to grab from here? Let's go ahead and say a minimum value of 200,000. Go ahead and add that, and let's see what it does. So our list stays the exact same. So all these properties that are in here are a lot higher end actually than 200,000. We're seeing as we go down the list, anywhere from 300 all the way up to close to $1 million in property values in some of these homes. So this is a pretty solid subset. Now, you guys, I've been having issues with my Remind lately, so we're going to test and see if this allows me to do it. But I'm just going to go ahead and add this to a cart, and I should have this little red box. Yeah, it says that it can't be. So I have another list that I've prepared for you guys. Remind is looking into the issue that I'm experiencing so that I can add more items to my cart, and they're getting that fix out of the way for me. But you guys will be able to go in from the real estate side. The real estate agents that have access do not have this same glitch or error. I've been told that it's simply just from the mortgage side of things. So what I'm going to do, you guys, is I'm going to pull up on another screen. I'm just going to go and grab some homeowner data that I have so that I can show you guys the next step. So in this, once we've gone ahead and we've pulled the data, we're going to show you guys how to use this in Facebook to target these individuals on Facebook through an advertising. And we're also going to show you how to use Mailbox Power. I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to show you guys how I automate this going through Mailbox Power with KV Core or with Leads to ROI, which is our CRM that we own. So I'm going to grab some data really quick. Just give me 1 second, you guys. All right, there we go. So I've got a handful of different pieces of data. I want to show you guys what this looks like as well once you download it from Remind.
We're still seeing, oh, there we go.
There we go. So once you guys download the data from Remind, you're going to get a ton of information. So you can see we have the property address, the city, the state, their zip code. This is the second portion of the zip. If it's an absentee homeowner, you also get the mailing address. So you'll see on some of these that the mailing address matches. You'll see on some of these that the mailing address is different. That's going to be an absentee homeowner. They also list whether that status is absentee or not right here on your doc. So it's going to show absentee out of state or absentee in state if it's an in-state absentee. You'll also find out whether it's owner occupied or if it's owned by a corporation or an LLC. So tons of data that comes through here. You guys are also going to be able to find out what the square footage is, how many beds and baths of that home, and it's just going to give you a ton more info. So we're going to go through, since this is the mortgage side, you guys are going to see things like the mortgage percentage rate. From the real estate side though, these are kinds of fields that you guys aren't going to see because it doesn't really matter from a real estate standpoint what their mortgage rate is and what's going on there. All right, but you will have all this additional data right here where we have the homeowner's first name, the homeowner's middle initial or middle name, and the homeowner's last name. And then it's going to break down full name, and then we'll move into homeowner 1 info, and then we have a homeowner 2, so it'll break down if there's a second homeowner that owns this property, you're going to get their data as well, including emails and phone numbers if they were added at the time of title. So there's a ton of information that we can gather right here from Remind that we can utilize. So what I'm going to dive into next is uploading one of these lists directly into Facebook Ads Manager. So facebook.com/adsmanager.com and not Anger. There we go. Okay, and let's go ahead and go into audiences. And I'm going to open up Leads to ROI. All right, and so once you guys are in your Facebook Audience Manager, again, you can go to facebook.com/ads-manager. From there, you can click this hamburger menu, and then we can select audiences. Once audiences have been selected, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. If you've never loaded an audience in, you aren't going to have any audiences that are loaded up in here. So this section will just be blank. But what you'll look at is on the left side of the screen, top left corner, you're going to see Create Audience. We're going to click here, and then we're going to create a custom audience. So this is going to open up, and we're going to have a ton of different options. So this is where you guys can use your pixel to target folks that have visited a website or have looked at something if you have an IDX catalog, or if they've watched a video, filled out a lead form, any of those things. What we're going to focus on right now is going to be a customer list. So we're going to hit next. This page is just letting us know how we need to set this up. We're going to go ahead and hit next. And this include value or customer value. This isn't something that's really for real estate. This is more for like e-commerce. If you have somebody that keeps coming back and buying again and again and again. So I guess it would work really well for a list of investors. But for this particular list, that's not what we're targeting. So go ahead and click next. All we're going to do is take one of those files that we have, and we're simply going to drag and drop that file directly into the system. So you can see we just move that in, and we're going to select next. You guys can rename this audience if you wish, but this is the reserve at Estero in Florida. So this is a specific neighborhood where I've sat down with a client and we've gone in and geo-farmed this particular location together. So we go ahead and hit next. We're going to get this little red indicator right here because it didn't automatically map any of these fields, because the fields from the CSV download don't match Facebook's field names. And that's okay. We just need to go in and manually update these. So there's a couple things we can do here. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and select the state. We can also add in the zip code or the primary zip. We're then going to scroll down and we are going to add in the owner one first name and the owner one last name. And then we will move to grabbing their phone number and their email. So owner one first name, and we're going to map this to first name. Owner two or owner one last name here, we're just going to map that to last name. Then you guys see we have address. So we're just going to, or email address, we're going to go ahead and map that to email. And then phone numbers, we're going to map that to phone number. So now we've got everything mapped out that we need on here. We have the state, the zip, then the first name, the last name, the email address, and the phone number. So the primary identifiers that Facebook is going to use to target your client that you're importing from this list is going to be things like name, phone number, and email. Now, if we only have a name and we don't have a phone or an email, having that state and that zip is going to help Facebook determine who that individual is. And that's why I have you add in the state and the zip code as well. So that way we have more opportunities to pinpoint that individual contact. So now that we've added all of those unique identifiers that we need, all we have to do is click import and create, and we go ahead and create this list. Now it's going to take some time to populate this specific list so that it can be used to market. And that's anywhere typically from 24 to 48 hours to be able to start an ad using this audience and sending folks out with this, or sending marketing out to folks in their news feed on Facebook to this particular list. I do recommend making sure that you have a list that you upload that has over 1,000 homeowners that are in it when you're targeting specifically on Facebook. So all I'm going to do is go ahead and click done, and it says that it's ready right now, but it's also populating. So I actually recommend waiting that 24 to 48 hour window until it says that it is available or ready to rock, and then you can go ahead and market to that particular list. And your audience size is going to just say, in most cases here, that it is not available, and that's because you're uploading a customer list. If you have website traffic, it is going to give you a breakdown on those, but for the most part, it's not going to tell you how many people Facebook actually identified on that list, and it's all for privacy reasons. All right, so now that you've gone ahead and uploaded your list here, the next thing that we would do is actually upload this list into either your CRM, or we would upload it, primarily into your CRM is the next step that we would do for this list. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up Leads to ROI. I'm going to show you guys in KV Core as well, but I don't have a client's account that I can open this and import this list into right now to go ahead and use because we've already imported it. So actually, let's go 1 second. I just need to get logged in. Awesome. So I'm going to take you guys through the steps of what you would do if you wanted to import that list into KV Core, and then I'm actually going to show you importing the list into Leads to ROI. So in KV Core, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, oh, interesting, it didn't work. So what we're going to look at first is we're going to go into Lead Engine. So in KV Core, you're going to see inside of Lead Engine, you've got some quick links at the top right. The very first quick link is bulk lead import. You also have bulk import here as well. They are the exact same thing. This is how you can do a bulk import. So you've got two different ways of doing this with KV Core. Number one is submit the file to them. 24 to 48 hours, they will get it done for you. Number two is going to be to do it yourself so that you have all of that data in your system on your own. And so I'm actually going to walk you guys through how the do it yourself works so that we can push through this. So if we click on get started here, what we're simply going to do is take and drag and drop that file. I'm not going to complete this import, but I'm just going to show you guys how it works. So once we drag and drop that file into the system, what we're going to do is we're going to look at all of the different columns that we have here. Okay, we've got a ton of data and a ton of information. We're going to hit next. We're simply just going to go in and map these fields out. So you're going to go down the list, and where it has owner one first name, we're going to attach that to first name. Owner last name, we're going to then go ahead and attach that to last name. So owner one last name, boom. And then we can just move down the list. For opt-in and email marketing and things along those lines, this is not a list that is opted in to allow us to email them. They also haven't opted in to allow us to call them. So it's very important that we don't send out any marketing to these individuals that are outside of paid forms of advertising like direct mail or specifically targeting them on social media. So very important. I don't want you guys to get in trouble. Don't opt any of these folks in for email marketing. So you'll see opt-in subscriptions here. Don't opt anyone in for any of these when you're loading these lists in. We don't want any campaigns to automatically trigger and to start sending texts or emails out to these homeowners that don't know us from Adam at this point in time. But essentially what you're going to do is just go down this list and continue to add all of this owner one information in. So now we're going to grab the email. Then we're going to scroll down and we can grab owner one cell phone, which is going to be the owner one phone, and just go down this list and grab as much info as humanly possible. Now that we've gone ahead and gathered this, let's take a look at the address. So we have our primary address information. We're going to plug in the property address. We're going to use city and map that to primary city. We're going to map for primary zip code, and we can map zip code 5 because we know that that was the regular zip code, or excuse me, that was state. So we'll go ahead and map the state to state and then zip code. We'll do, let's actually look at that CSV just to make sure. Okay, yeah. So I'm looking at another screen. So it was 4, zip code 4 was the primary zip, zip 5 was the secondary. And so that way we've got all of the pertinent information that we need for their address, their city, their state, and their zip. All you guys would have to do once you've done this is go ahead and hit the next button, and then you'll submit everything in. But I'm not going to do that at this point in time, again, because this data isn't for this particular account that I'm looking at. I've already uploaded it into that particular account, but this is an account that I have permission to share with you guys. So now I'm going to show you guys how to do the exact same thing if you're looking to do this inside of Leads to ROI, which is our CRM, our platform, and give you guys a quick little overview of how it works. And spoiler alert, it's almost identical to what we're doing in KV Core. So one moment. All right, so inside of Leads to ROI platform, very similar. We just click the import contacts list. We go ahead and click upload file or drag and drop. So I'm actually just going to drag and drop this over. We go ahead and click next. Once we click next on this, then what we're going to do is go ahead and just map out the fields. So you can see we've got the city, we've got the state, property address. So for us, we have just address as the name of the file or the name of the field, zip code 5. Oh, so it was zip code 5 here. So we scroll down and we go to zip code or postal code in our system. Postal code matches up with zip. And we go down and take a look at mailing address. I'm not going to worry about that at this point in time. Now let's scroll down and do owner 1, first name. So we map this up to first name. Owner last name, we map this up to last name. Email address, we map this up to email address. Phone numbers, we map up to phone. And then we just simply click next and then import the data. So both systems, whether you guys like to use Leads to ROI or KV Core, you guys will be able to import those contacts directly into your CRM. Now, this is where the magic happens. So let's say we've just imported this whole list into Facebook and we started running an ad and we're putting a home that we recently sold in this neighborhood right in front of these homeowners. That's a great way to do it. If you sold a home in a neighborhood, you should blanket that neighborhood with flyers and with postcards. And you should also target that neighborhood on Facebook, showcasing your recently sold home. So once you've uploaded that audience, you want to build an ad so that you can target them with that. Now, the cool thing about this is with KV Core, you guys can actually build out automations for when you want to send out mass mailers to individuals. And it's not a function that's built directly into KV Core for the mass mail sending, but there's some really cool things that you can do here. So if we go ahead and look at smart campaigns, the first thing that we actually have to do is set up a template. So what we would do is we would go into our template section here, and let's go ahead and look at add template. You guys can see that you have the ability to add a webhook. Now, to simplify this, I remember when I first saw a webhook, I thought, oh man, this is something that has to be super complicated. It's going to involve coding. I'm not going to understand it. I'm not going to get it. I was so far from being right on that one, you guys. Webhooks are super simple. It's data that comes from one software and goes into another software. So it's basically just a transfer of data. You just have to connect an entry point and an ending point, and you can move data from A to Z. So essentially what you would do is you would go ahead and you'd create a webhook as a template, and you would name this as direct mail campaign. And you're going to want to do a specific webhook for each neighborhood that you guys target. So this one that we're looking at is called the Reserve at Estero. So the Reserve. Oh, and I'm actually going to do this right, at Estero. All right. And so what we would do here for this particular URL, you guys have to have Zapier or API Nation or a third-party service that can connect two pieces of software together and transmit data back and forth. So I prefer Zapier. There's so many more things that you can do with it from API Nation, but you guys all get API Nation free with KV Core. I just don't have access to an account myself, so I'm going to show how to do it inside of Zapier. So the first step is going to be to create a catch hook. So let's say webhook. So webhooks by Zapier. Then what we're going to do is select a catch hook and say continue. Zapier is going to create a URL for us that we're going to be able to use here. So we're going to take this URL, we're going to plug it right into the URL section. And then if you have any parameters, you can go ahead and create names for those custom parameters and select values for those. So that's gonna be things like that we see below here. So we've got first name, we've got last name, we've got phone number, email, lead address. So all of these things are going to be parameters that you're going to want to select and add to this webhook. So it's going to be first name, last name, phone number, email, home address, zip code, state, city, all of that info we want to go ahead and pass through. All we have to do on the back end of this, whether you're using API Nation or Zapier, is then do a connection to your preferred mailing software. We like Mailbox Power. So all we have to do is select Mailbox Power. Then we would go in and create and update a contact. And from here, this is where we can actually set the automation in place. So at this point in time, you would have already gone into Mailbox Power. You would have set up a drip campaign with a handful of direct mail pieces that would go out. And then you're simply going to connect to your Mailbox Power account. And let me find one that I'm connected to. Let's do my own. So you guys will find a or you'll connect to your Mailbox Power account. You'll need to add a particular neighborhood drip or a particular address book that you want to add them into. And then we can select all of our automations from here. So we're simply going to map those fields that we created in here for these parameters for, say, first name. So let's go ahead and say, okay, let's add an additional parameter. So there's first name, there's last name, we'll add another parameter. Here's phone. Actually, we don't even need to move the cell phone number over, but we can grab the address. So let's go to, there we go. And let's then add in the zip code. So it's going to be under listing zip. Oh, excuse me. Actually, we just need to do the address, and the address is going to send the full data or the full information over. So we just leave this at listing address and we're good to go. And then what we'll do here is once we've sent a piece of data through, that catch hook is going to have all of the data fields right here that we can select. And we simply match first name, last name, address to address, and we are good to go there. So that data then moves directly into Mailbox Power. And based off of your contact list that you select, it can automatically send out your guys' drip campaigns in the form of your direct mail. So I'll actually dive into Mailbox Power now because that was kind of the last piece. And I'll give you guys an inside look at Mailbox Power and how this all works. So in Mailbox Power, you guys are going to see that you have contact lists that are in here. You also have automations. So the first thing that you need to do is you actually need to build out a project, right? So we can see that we have these saved projects. You can see we have copy of seller's market 5x7 template, new expired listing, right? So new FSBO, buyers, right? We've got a ton of different kinds of postcards that we can use in marketing. And to give you an idea, this is just an example of what one of these look like. So in Mailbox Power, you create your projects, make your postcards look the way that you want them to look. Once those postcards have been saved, you can then add them to specific automations. And so if we were to take a look at an automation on this, and these are a handful of tests that we've ran, but if you guys go ahead and take a look at some of these automations, these are going to give you the ability to send multiple postcards to one individual at specific time frames. So you'll send it out within your first week. You'll have another one that goes out month 2. You'll have another one that goes out month 3. You'll have another one that goes out month 4. So that way you can steadily drop mailbox or postcards in these individuals' mailboxes over a period of time. So Mailbox Power is an extremely powerful platform. And you guys can also do things like once you've won a listing, let's say you wanted to generate a new mailing list and target a specific area, right? You could actually plug in the address of your property or of your listing here. And so we can see a radius around address. You guys can go ahead and plug in a specific address. And once you've done that, you can actually narrow down the radius size. So we can go as far down as 0.1 miles if we would like to, and you can direct mail all of these folks that are in this area. Now you do have to have a minimum of 100 people in your list. So we're gonna wanna expand that out just a little ways. But once we've expanded this out, you can see 0.2 miles, got 157 people. You can actually pull that entire list of folks to market to in Mailbox Power for $15.62. And now you can send a piece of direct mail to every homeowner right around your listing, letting them know that it's either just hit the market, or that it just sold, or that it went pending. So that way, if someone else in this particular targeted neighborhood was thinking about potentially selling their home, they could then reach directly out to you and contact you as their agent that they would like to work with. Now, you guys, we automate all of this stuff for our clients with Be Known Advertising. So if you guys are using KV Core, it's your primary CRM, and you want to have us go ahead and send these direct mailers out on your behalf for a particular client list, we can absolutely do that for you. And it's one of the services that we offer. The next thing I want to cover, you guys, is some audience do's and don'ts. So when you are going ahead and creating these audiences, make sure that you're grabbing an audience of homeowners that's larger than 1,000, right? That's the number one reason for that is going to be if you're utilizing it for Facebook marketing, you want to make sure that you have a list of 1,000 or greater, so that Facebook will allow you to send direct advertisements to those individuals. If we upload a list that's under 1,000, Facebook has an extremely high cost to market those folks. And unless you're doubling up with 2 different audiences that are under 1,000, in most cases, they won't even let you market to them. Be sure to upload this audience list to Facebook. Make sure that you're scheduling an appointment with us to make sure that your mailbox power is ready to accept the audience, and get ready to shoot some videos, right? Send emails. So this is don'ts. Do not send emails to this list. Don't call this list. Don't text this list. This is an audience. It's not a lead source. To direct message outside of mail can get you guys in some serious trouble with those CAN spam laws, and we don't want anybody to get in trouble. So if you guys do go and pull this kind of data from either Remine, PropStream, Property Radar, if you're pulling it from Mailbox Power directly to get your audience list, please do not call, text, or email these folks. We don't want you to get in trouble. So one of the videos that you guys should shoot all has to do with being your neighborhood expert. So let's say, for example, you've just won a listing in a particular neighborhood or a community, or a specific HOA, and you want to then turn around and target all of those homeowners using something similar to what we're looking at here on Mailbox Power, where you can narrow this down to 0.1 or even 0.2 miles around a particular address. What I recommend doing, you guys should pick up a GoPro, or not a GoPro, you guys should pick up a gimbal, like a DJI Osmo 5, and I'll show that on Amazon here in just a moment. You guys should pick up a gimbal or a motion stabilizer, so that way you can walk, talk, and shoot video, and it doesn't look like the Blair Witch Project. And if you don't know what that means, we don't want your camera going up and down, side to side, bouncing all over the place, giving the recipient that's watching the video motion sickness. We want that video to be nice and crisp and smooth and clean. So I'm actually going to pull up a DJI Osmo right now and share my screen. And here we go. So here is a DJI Osmo. I've seen them for $139 before. This is just the first listing I saw. I pulled it up for $159. Fairly inexpensive. You guys can set this up as a tripod. It also has like a couple foot extension on it, so it can extend out. You can use it as a selfie stick, or you guys can could keep it nice and close. It's up to you. But essentially what this is going to do is keep your image completely level and flat while you are walking. You can go upstairs, downstairs, walk around the neighborhood, and it's going to look like a video that came directly out of Hollywood. These are absolutely amazing, you guys. So highly recommend DJI Osmo 5. Okay, so go ahead and shoot a video walking through the specific neighborhood that you're marketing to. And these potential clients, when you send out direct mail to them, they're going to recognize when you are marketing to these folks on Facebook and they see the video that you have shot walking through their neighborhood, speaking about their neighborhood, they're going to recognize certain things, and they're going to know, hey, this is my neighborhood. That's really cool. So you guys can also focus on being your micro niche reporter in these neighborhoods. So if there's any new stores, restaurants, mom and pop shops, be the first person to go and stand in front of those businesses and do a little video talking about what's coming to the community, right? If there's nearby schools, school zones, school ratings, all that kind of stuff, events, sport games, extracurricular activities, clubs, be sure to talk about those things that are going on in these local communities. If you're trying to niche down and hit a specific neighborhood and target them to list properties with you, or for you to work with them as potential buyers. These are all really, really good things to do. You guys can also do videos on market health, talk about the number of homes that have listed in the particular neighborhood, the average time on market, what the average sales prices are in those neighborhoods, and of course, what that year-over-year gain looks like. And when you break down a percentage, make sure that you take your particular percentage. Let's just say, oh, home values have risen year over year 25%. If I look at Kennewick, where I live, Kennewick, Washington, we have seen a 25% year over year gain. Our home values are 400,000. A 25% year over year gain was almost 100 grand or 100,000 in rise in average home value. So when you put the percentage on it, make sure you use the big number behind it so that it really resonates with individuals. Make sure that you cover homeowner or neighborhood stats, so home sales, crime statistics, all of those good things, and then any local grocery stores. One cool thing that I've seen several times, and I haven't seen as much of this in my market where I'm at now, but when I lived closer to Seattle, there was this agent, the Lions team in Kirkland, Washington. There was this team, the Michelle Lyons team, and she actually went to the local Safeway right down the bottom of the hill from my house, and she had her logo, her photo, and her contact info on every single shopping cart that was at that particular Safeway. So everyone that shopped saw a little bit of branding of her, and saw a little bit, got some information to contact her if they wanted to do so. I think that's brilliant, you guys. If your local shopping store, local grocery stores, communities will allow you to do that, I'd definitely look into seeing if you guys can get your logo, face, contact info added onto their shopping carts. That'll help you guys grow. A couple cool things you guys can do with school districts. So this is a way to really get in there and target to the homeowners that are in this particular school district, that are going to be in the neighborhoods that you want to list. So one of the things that you can do, I think about when I played sports. I mean, this was almost 20 years ago now, but when I played sports in high school, we had programs, and I recently had my mom send me a chest full of papers and photos from when I was in sports, when I wrestled, when I played football, when I played soccer. And one of the things that I found in there that really caught my attention was a big stack of programs. Every year, every sport that I was in, they had a unique program for that year. And inside of that program was sponsorships. And so all of the local businesses, local real estate agents, local mortgage LOs would actually sponsor these local school programs and get a spot inside of that program. Now, the parents go through those. They look at those programs and they go through them from cover to cover, front to back. So it's extremely advantageous for you guys to look into these high school sporting events and see what you can do to sponsor the particular sport, the particular team, and get into their program. So that's huge. But also look at band, DECA, not just sports. Every one of these extracurricular activities has a particular program that gets handed out to the parents, and they all raise funds so that they can provide funding for that particular program. So I've even seen some schools, like my high school, I'm friends with some of my teachers still on Facebook. They actually have a esports category now, where there's students that have joined this club and they play esports. So they're playing football, but on the Xbox or on a PlayStation. And that's just going to continue to grow as time goes on. and technology gets better and better. So materials that you guys are going to need to do these things: number one, you're going to need a cell phone. Everybody's got one in their pocket. You're also going to want a gimbal, which is similar to the DJI Osmo. That's what I showed you guys on Amazon. And be sure to smile while you're shooting your videos. So that goes ahead and ends the session for today. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, this would be the best time to go ahead and ask away.
We do have some questions.
Awesome.
Let me see if I can, you can see them too, but what is the reason to use Remind over data sources like Title Toolbox, Cold Realty, etc.?
So all of those systems are going to work in the same fashion. Remind is just my preferred method of delivery. I get a lot of really good data from them, and we've used them time and time again. But if you guys do have a relationship with your title companies, you can go ahead and gather this information however it's going to make most sense to you. But that's just a system that we like, that a lot of MLSs provide to agents around the nation as a free service. So check with your guys' MLS. If you guys have access to Remind, you guys can go and pull all of that homeowner data for yourselves, and it saves you a trip or a phone call to reaching out to that title rep.
Can you share some ad performance results from these audiences?
Absolutely, you guys. When it boils down to ad performance results, our average cost per lead when we're looking at targeting these particular homeowners is right around $4 cost per lead. We take a different approach with them right now than what we've previously done, and that's because of the way the market has shifted. When we had a lot more listings that were available on the market, What's My Home Worth ads worked very, very well. Now we're finding that we're actually getting homeowners to reach out on buyer ads more than we're getting them to reach out on What's My Home Value ads. And that's because the homeowners are a little more scared to make a move or start the process of listing their house until they find something that they actually want to move into. So I can tell you right now, in my market, a house goes live. My wife and I are actually shopping right now. A house goes live, within 1 day it's pending and it's already off the market. So homeowners are terrified of listing their house prior to finding a home that they want to move into.
Yes, this is going to be recorded. It's going to be recorded. You guys will be able to get an opportunity to look at the recording. How do you import the phone number? Was that in Remind? How accurate do you feel the email addresses are?
Definitely. So with these, we found that about 50% of the data that we import into Facebook is the data that is found, right? So about half of that data is accurate and correct and up to date. And that's why it's important to focus on larger lists when you're downloading over 1,000, so that when you're importing those lists into Facebook, you can get in front of them. Yes, that data is about 50% of the time it's accurate, 50% of the time it's not. So using a third-party system to kind of scrub those leads, which KV Core already has this built into it, would be a great way for you guys to capture some additional info on those folks.
Stephanie has another question. If we need more than 1,000, we couldn't do a customer list for our sphere or smaller neighborhood, I take it. And I guess the answer is no, not if you need more than 1,000.
That's correct.
Sphere.
I would pick a couple of additional neighborhoods with that and do a one ad where you're targeting, hey, if you live in one of these 4 neighborhoods, and then have you walking through each one of those neighborhoods and just kind of splice it all into that video.
And everybody else wants to know if this is being recorded, and the answer is yes, it's being recorded. And if you send me, $5, I'll get you the link. Everybody will have an opportunity to view the link of the recording with the handout. I placed a Leads to ROI link in the chat, but you also have Brian's information probably in the handout. I assume so, or reach out to me.
Yep.
But we've reached the end of our questions.
Awesome. Yeah, in that handout, there's a book now button at the bottom of every single page of the slide deck, and that will take you directly to a calendar so that you can book with us. If you guys have any questions, So if you guys are looking to do this and stick with your KV core, we're more than happy to build all of this stuff out and use your guys' KV core. If you're looking for an additional CRM or system, we also have that in place. It's really very similar to KV core, but it's completely up to you. I'm a firm believer of use the CRM that you're actually using. And so if you guys are utilizing your KV core, learning how to use that system, and you're consistently logging notes, making calls through it, that's the system you need to use. You got to use the CRM that you're actually working with.
Right. I think the line is what is the best CRM, and the answer is the one you actually use, whatever that is. So,
Absolutely.
all right, I think we've come to the end of our appointed hour. Thank you, everybody, for participating. We really appreciate it. Yeah, mahalo. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. And stay safe out there, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mike.